What are the best and worst matchups for your wide receivers, tight ends, and streaming defenses in fantasy football for Week 14? It's time to break down all three positions with our starts and advice and rankings on Matchup Thursday, only on Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. We got the Decider column. We got my picks against the spread. We got our sleepers and busts there that you can check out for this week. We're going to break down wide receivers, tight ends, and defenses, as we always do on a Matchup Thursday here on Locked On Fantasy Football. So take a deep dive into the rankings, then look at the start six recommendations with the tougher plays of the week. It's a little bit tighter this week. As we mentioned, they're breaking down the quarterbacks and running backs on Matchup Wednesday. We have 6 teams on a bye, so the Falcons and Saints, Bears and Packers, and Commanders and Colts, giving us a lot of players out of the lineups here this week. So we're navigating through that, so maybe a little bit deeper into these pools and maybe trying to make the right decisions here as we're trying to get into the fantasy football playoffs or start with a bang there as we work our way to a fantasy football championship in seasonal leagues. We'll get into all that in a moment. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're free and available to you on all platforms. It's a crossover Thursday on the network. That means we break down all the games for you with the hosts breaking it down with the matchups. Crossover Thursday is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun and it's easy to play. No competing with other players. It's just you versus projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players and they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. You can literally take them less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. All right, let's get into wide receivers. We'll tackle the rankings in our first segment. These are the guys that are no-brainer plays and how I see them stack up with their potential production this week. Last week, we loved A.J. Brown at the top. He did not disappoint with his big revenge game against the Titans. This week, Justin Jefferson gets the top spot against that Lions secondary. I know Jeff Okudah is playing a little bit better, but it's Justin Jefferson, folks. He's going to blow up in this matchup. I think the Vikings are going to be angry that they're underdogs in this game. They are the leaders in the NFC North. They can win the division here. They're going to come out firing. Jefferson's going to have a big game here. So he's at number 1. Tyreek Hill, the Chargers secondary, they've seen enough of Tyreek Hill as a Chief. It's going to be another rough night for them. So Tyreek Hill is going to go off here. And notable that Bryce Callahan, the Chargers slot corner, is very good. Is a little bit banged up in this one with a growing injury, so that could also help Hill with his speed. Here, Jamar Chase versus the Browns. It's time for the Bengals to throw this Browns monkey off their backs, and Jamar Chase is going to help them do that. Denzel Ward, a little bit banged up. He hasn't played all that well on the outside. So Jamar Chase, I think, is going to go off here, and he was the guy who didn't play in the first Browns matchup, so he's going to make up for that lost time. A.J. Brown doesn't fall too far from the top. He gets a Giants secondary where Adoree Jackson is hurting here, so that really helps on the outside. We saw Terry McLaurin make some plays last week against the secondary. So A.J. Brown, no lower than 4. Stephon Diggs, a little tougher matchup. Could see a little bit of Sauce Gardner, but he doesn't drop below 5 because he's basically dominating the targets here. Not a lot of Gabe Davis or Dawson Knox or Isaiah McKenzie on a consistent basis here for Josh Allen. A lot of Diggs and his buddy going off here. And we saw Jefferson handle this matchup well last week, so Diggs will too. Devontae Adams there tonight against the Rams. Jalen Ramsey's on the other side, but he can scheme Adams open. He's on a heater. He's been destroying double teams. He's been destroying top corners. It doesn't matter. Last 5 weeks, Adams has been easily the best wide receiver in the game here, and we love it this week. CeeDee Lamb, tougher matchup. The Texans secondary is not bad, but Derek Stingley Jr. may miss another game. They also play a lot of cover 2 zone, and Lamb can work around it. It's more the volume. Is he going to get the volume this week? I think he will and score, and it'll be a lot like the Colts game where he gets his numbers early and then they dominate the rest of the game. Amon-Ra St. Brown is on fire. The Vikings secondary doesn't have anyone to cover him inside or outside, so love him at number 8. DeAndre Hopkins returns from the bye. The Patriots not very good on the outside. They struggled with Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis last week, so Nuke Hopkins goes off here. Christian Kirk. Titans are a little bit better in the slot than they're on the outside, but they're still not that strong in the secondary. So he's at number 10, and the volume should be there regardless. T. Higgins against the Browns lit them up the first matchup without Chase. I think he gets it going with Chase. Jalen Waddle, let's check that fibula injury. I think he'll be fine to play. He returned to the game last week. Chargers, he doesn't fall too far behind Tyreek Hill at number 12. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett back-to-back. I keep these guys together pretty much in the rankings every week because I love it. Geno Smith pretty much targets these guys equally from week to week. So that's good to see. And there's no one else. I mean, they don't really throw too much to other wide receivers. And Noah Fant sometimes gets involved at tight end, and now Will Dissly is hurt. So it's going to be all about these wide receivers. And the Panthers have decent corners. We know that. But they scheme these guys open inside and outside very well for Geno Smith. Deebo Samuel, we'll look at the quadriceps injury, but he's a tough cover for that Buccaneers secondary because they can move around. So he comes up at 15. How about Garrett Wilson? He's now 16 thanks to Mike White. 2 big games in a row as they're actually throwing the ball downfield. The Bills secondary has had some leaks here. There should be some volume at least. He's their number 1 receiver. So Garrett Wilson making a late push with Chris Olave and Christian Watson for Offensive Rookie of the Year with Dameon Pierce fading here. Keenan Allen at number 17. Great game last week. He was very nice to watch, and the Dolphins in the slot are not very good. Amari Cooper against the Bengals. No Chidobe Awuzie. He did really well in this first matchup for sure, and maybe a little bit better chemistry with Deshaun Watson this week. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans back-to-back. You have to keep playing them. It can be frustrating. The 49ers are weaker on the back end. They lost to Emmanuel Mosley. We'll see Charvarius Ward on Mike Evans here. So it'll be tough, Evans, to get going, but you know that blow-up game can happen anytime. You don't want to have Evans on your bench for that. Brandon Ayuk, look, he's been quiet here, and we'll see what happens with Brock Purdy in the red zone, but he's at every week play. So is Gabe Davis. I know it's a bit frustrating, but with Ayuk and Davis, those numbers do come overall, so you got to keep them in your lineups because of the touchdown potential. Devonta Smith has looked really good. He's going to break 1,000 yards, really filling it opposite A.J. Brown. He's in that lineup as well at 23. Cortland Sutton, we'll see if he plays, but I do like the matchup against the Chiefs. I don't think he's going to be out there with a hamstring injury. Unfortunately, he's the only Broncos piece I like other than Latavius Murray in that game if he's going to go, and I don't feel great about that. Treylon Burks, love the rookie from the Titans. It's a good matchup against the Jaguars if he can play. I think he has a better chance to play this week than Sutton because it's a linear injury with a concussion. So those are the top 25 that I would look at. So basically going through your wide receiver 1s and 2s and going into the wide receiver 3s and then trying to make the tough decisions after that. We'll do that in our final 2 segments here. We'll look at the wide receiver starts and sits. Then we'll go rapid fire with the tight ends and defenses there. So we'll get you covered for your entire lineups between Matchup Wednesday and Matchup Thursday. That's what we do here on Locked On Fantasy Football. This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. That's why you'll be able to find a sneak peek of Block Forever available on Locked On NFL right now. Block Forever is a brand new podcast, and it stars former NFL All-Pro center Ryan Khalil, and is brought to you by Audible. Khalil takes the conversation about football to the next level. He'll sit down with the players, coaches, and former pros across the league to get real about what happens on the field, behind the scenes, inside locker rooms, during team meetings, and back at the hotel. You'll hear Christian McCaffrey talk about his love-hate relationship with fantasy football, and Juju Smith-Schuster give his most honest opinions on other players and positions in the league. Ryan and guests discuss topics like player psyche, sports betting, playing through pain, being a later, and how to deal with combative teammates. Here, nothing is out of bounds. So it's a great inside look at what you're looking at from the NFL player perspective. You can check it out. It's available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcast. So definitely something you want to check out. Head over to Locked On NFL for sneak peek of Block Forever. Catch a full series available anywhere you get your podcast. Available everywhere now. Audible, get in the game. All right, we'll continue the show in a moment, looking at our wide receiver start and sits. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes, with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's continue with the wide receivers that I like, that we're worried about this week, if we want to go with them. Marquise Hollywood Brown. The Patriots do struggle on the outside. They're better on the inside. I think Hollywood will get going this week. He's fully healthy. He had to bye to rest. So, like that matchup for sure. Jerry Jeudy also is a recommended play, especially if Cortland Sutton doesn't play. He actually looked pretty good last week. The Chiefs can struggle with him a little bit. They got those young corners. We know that. So, they really struggled against the Bengals last week. So, Jeudy is their best option if he goes. DJ Chark. Look, we're going to roll him out. We'll see about Jameson Williams when they expand his role with Amon-Ra St. Brown. But Chark looked good. I know it was a revenge game against the Jaguars last week, and that helped. But I think he'll be busy after a nice game. And I do like, in the same game, I like Adam Thielen. He had a big game 2 weeks ago to the Patriots. I think he'll rebound from that disappearing act against a tough Jets defense. He gets in the end zone this week for Kirk Cousins, who we really like there in that matchup, along with Jared Goff. Mac Hollins, Thursday night, if you need some help on the outside, the Rams stink. Troy Hill is hurting. He's got a growing injury. He's their number 2 corner behind Jalen Ramsey. They're just not good at covering other receivers here. So Mac Hollins should get free to see some run here. Zay Jones, it was tough for him last week, but this is a rebound week for Zay Jones because the Titans, again, struggle on the outside. That's going to help. Michael Gallup, I think you'll see a big play from him. He's back revved up in this offense. Tyler Boyd, working the slot against the Browns, will have some success here. I think they'll throw it around a little bit better. I like Jakobi Meyers to rebound this week as well. The Cardinals secondary, beatable, and I think they'll open up the passing game a little bit more with Mac Jones. I'm not going to attach myself to Mac Jones, but we'll go there with Meyers. And Nico Collins, we're looking at him, and this matchup against the Cowboys, we'll see if Brandon Cooks returns. He's got a calf injury. Nico Collins also been banged up. If neither of those guys go, then I'm going to pivot to Chris Moore, because someone in garbage time is going to rack up some numbers against the Cowboys for Davis Mills, now back at starting quarterback. So watch out for that. Whoever the number 1 receiver is for Houston, they're going to get peppered with targets here in the second half, as they're 17-point underdogs in the game just down the road from Houston to Dallas this week. So those are the wide receivers that I like their matchups. Let's look at some matchups I do not like this week. And probably can guess by the guys I didn't mention. DJ Moore, hate this matchup. Tariq Woolen, big dude, rookie. If it wasn't for Sauce Gardner, I think he would be the defensive rookie of the year. Sauce has played really well, but Tariq Woolen is going to shut down DJ Moore. So forget about it for DJ Moore. That could open things up for Terrace Marshall Jr. if you're desperate. I don't like George Pickens or Deontay Johnson. Johnson is dealing with a hip injury. Pickens just really was disappointing in that homecoming game. We really liked George Pickens last week. Didn't come through. They didn't throw and scheme him enough. And this is a Matt Canada problem with both these guys. That's a problem in this game because, look, we'll see where Marlon Humphrey lines up. Marcus Peters is there as well. But I just don't love it. The Ravens secondary is playing really well. I'm not trusting Kenny Pickett really on the front end of this to get the ball to Pickens and Johnson this week. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the Chiefs wide receiver core is just questionable right now. They need Kadarius Toney back, and maybe he does return this week. I never thought I would say that with that team and that player, but that's what we're getting at here. Sky Moore is a little bit overwhelmed as a rookie. So the hyphenates, as I call them, the veteran hyphenates, Smith-Schuster, Valdes-Scantling, no way. I mean, just not great. And the Broncos are also very good in the secondary. Don't forget with Pat Surtain. They're very solid. So can't go with those. I think it's going to be a Travis Kelce game. Josh Palmer, don't love this matchup. He's the outside receiver here. If Mike Williams does not return, that means he'll get Xavier Howard. That's a tough matchup. I'm not going there. Don Peoples-Jones, the Bengals are really stingy. You can't really go there with him. He scored on that punt return last week, but we were rather lucky with that development. Darius Slayton, not going to do it. Darius Slay could be on the other side. So I love that matchup. Darius Slay versus Darius Slayton. It's not great for the Giants, but pretty good for the Eagles. Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, I'm not extending beyond Garrett Wilson this week with that Bills defense. And I look at Demarcus Robinson. If you want to try to force in a Ravens wide receiver, you can. But between him and Devin Duvernay, it's been underwhelming. And I think your guy, Tyler Huntley, is going to have eyes for Mark Andrews early and often in this game against the Steelers, and that's how they're going to win the game with running game and a lot of Andrews and a lot of Huntley running as well, not really forcing it to these wide receivers when that's not been a big part of their game. Now, that is a look at the wide receivers on the start-sit side. We'll look at the tight end ranking start-sits as well as defensive ranking start-sits there in our final two segment here on, or final segment, I should say. It's a double segment to close the show. Before we do that, it's an exciting time of the year with the World Cup, NFL stretch run. We got college football bowl games and the college football playoff coming up. Well, this is the only way to get into the action. It's betonline.net. Your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, and esports. They've got it all covered there for you at BetOnline. You can check them out there. Good stuff all around for whatever sport you're looking for. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today, use a mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football, we got to pause it here because we got to talk about Built Bar. Yes, great, because you got to try this. I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors: cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper, white chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on the granola bar, and it's more filling, still insanely tasting candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built. Trust me on this. They're revolutionizing nutrition, as you know, with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories, 130 calories only. Just sink your teeth into that first bite. It'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There'll be a time before you try these new Built flavors and the magical, wonderful time afterward. It is Christmas, holiday time, all that good stuff. This is a good time to gift to Built Bars. They're an excellent gift for anyone staying healthy, and it's going to make them feel good going to the new year. You're probably wondering which new flavors are my favorite. Well, that's not a question that anyone can answer, to say the least. They're all unbelievable, and they're all different, so you can order a mix box and try all the 5 flavors for yourself. Again, Built also makes a great gift. Built, you got to try this. Get 15% off your order right now by using the promo code LOCKEDON15 at Built.com. All right, it is time to close the show on Locked On Fantasy Football as we do a double shot of positional rankings and start sits here with tight ends and streaming defenses to close a matchup Thursday. Travis Kelce, number 1 against the Broncos. Obviously, he's always there. Mark Andrews, number 2, and George Kittle, number 3. Now, I feel great about Kelce against the Broncos dominating that game. Andrews, I think, gets going here. He had good chemistry with Tyler Huntley last week. George Kittle is hard, but the Buccaneers do give up numbers to the tight end. So we're going to hope that Kittle comes through with a touchdown this week, and that's the best we can do from week to week. Dalton Schultz, again, that cover 2 is conducive to throwing underneath. So Dalton Schultz comes in at number 4. Again, there's not a lot of tight ends we feel consistent about getting usage, and Schultz is one of them. Pratt Freiermuth, the Ravens can be vulnerable against the tight end, and he's been kind of the guy that they work inside quite a bit. So I like him there. TJ Hawkinson, revenge game against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, where he played for many years. This could be a blow-up game for Hawkinson. So I could see him easily finishing as the top tight end on the board this week. So Hawkinson a must-play. All right, Greg Dulcich. We'll see about the availability of Courtland Sutton, but if he's not there, he's going to be the number 2 receiver, Jerry Jeudy, playing off him. The Chiefs are struggling against the tight end, so fire up Greg Dulcich. Evan Ingram, we liked last week. He came through with a touchdown. It's another great matchup against the Titans, and he'll get involved with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. Hunter Henry, it's a cheat code matchup against the Cardinals. Go for it. Hunter Henry will score. It's natural, and he gets it going this week. Gerald Everett will be involved a little bit more against the Dolphins. I told you it's a tough matchup for Xavier Howard versus Josh Palmer, so we're going to go Everett there to help out Keenan Allen on the inside. Tyler Higbee, I do like him. He blocks a little bit, but we'll see. The Raiders matchup is just good enough to put him in there. Foster Moreau in that same matchup against the Rams. The Rams have really lost it with their tight end coverage of late. We saw Noah Fant go off on them last week, so Moreau is going to do well here in this matchup. This is my sleeper of the week at this position. It's Chig Okonkwo of the Titans against the Jaguars. They're going to use him a little bit more. We'll see about the Treylon Burks injury, but he's been getting some big plays here. The Jaguars are very vulnerable against the tight end. So Okonkwo, watch out. If you're really desperate at tight end, you can go there this week. Now, let's go To the guys I don't like, Dawson Knox. Say you have a Dawson Knox and a Conquest gives you more upside. I think I might go there this week. You have Knox just not getting involved in that Jets matchup. It's tough. Same thing for Tyler Conklin on the other side. We'll see about Matt Milano. He's a little bit banged up, but still, I'm not going to trust Tyler Conklin as Mike White is favoring all his receivers. Mike Gesicki, touchdown dependent. We're not going to go with it against the Chargers. Noah Fant will be slowed down by the Panthers. Jeremy Chin, their linebackers and company can cover Shaq Thompson and the like. So he'll cool off after that game against the Rams last week. Cade Otton, the 49ers are tough on the tight end, so forget about it there. They're the other team, other than the Saints, who really contains the tight end because of their linebackers and safeties. Daniel Bellinger, he's fully healthy here, but I'm not going to trust him against the Eagles this week. Harrison Bryant, we'll see if he's the guy. David Njoku could return, and then he's a start for sure with his knee injury, but I'm not going to play Harrison Bryant. He's disappointed twice now, filling in for Njoku. All right, let's go to our streaming defenses of the week. The Cowboys are number one, 17-point favorites. They smashed it last week. They're against the Colts, another weak AFC South opponent coming in, and they'll kill it. They're number one. The Bills against the Jets. Mike White is going to have some mistakes there on the road. The Ravens get the rookie quarterback Kenny Pickett. They're a tough secondary to throw on, so I like them. The 49ers, I wouldn't expect Tom Brady to have a meltdown game, but there's going to be opportunities for sacks and picks in that one with the Niners D. So I like them. Eagles against Daniel Jones. I think they'll force some turnovers here. The Seahawks at home against the Panthers. They can be run on a little bit, but Dr. Foreman a little bit banged up. You should be okay to play, but Seahawks can tee off on them once they get a lead. And the Chiefs at the Broncos, Russell Wilson, yeah, you can attack him. Now, some other defenses I like, and guys as collective. Cardinals versus the Patriots at home Monday night, emotional primetime bump. Cardinals did have that big game against the Saints and Andy Dalton. That was a Thursday night game. So you like the Cardinals in primetime in that one and to rebound from that last performance on Monday night against the 49ers. Raiders, if you need them, stream them against the Rams. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be between John Wolford, Bryce Perkins, and Baker Mayfield. Points to be had there for Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, and that defense. The Bengals against the Browns this week, like that as a play. Deshaun Watson still getting his feet wet. It's at home, like the Bengals this week. Vikings. Jared Goff is going to put up some numbers, but he can also make some mistakes here. We know with the secondary, they have some guys who can make plays. And the pass rush, the Vikings I do like as a cheap streamer this week. All right, let's look at the sit-em defenses. The Patriots, not going to go with them against the Cardinals. They struggle against running QBs, and they're not playing well of late. Buccaneers, not going to play them. The 49ers protect the ball, and they move it well. Steelers, not going to play them. And I think everyone's going to look at that Tyler Huntley matchup, but I think the Ravens are just going to be a better team. They'll protect the ball and win that game. Titans, I'm going to sit them against the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars can be competitive there, and I'm not going with them with their secondary issues. Jets, not going to trust them against Josh Allen. The Bills, Broncos, no way. You're sitting them. You're going to continue to sit them. They were decent against the Ravens and Lamar last week, but not going to happen against Patrick Mahomes this week. And the Browns at the Bengals, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to have his first win over the Browns and light them up this week. So there you have it. There's a look at your tight ends and streaming defense recommendations of the week and our rankings at those positions there. So good stuff here on a matchup Thursday. We'll close the week with lineup Friday. That means we'll look at DFS there for DraftKings, FanDuel, and our favorite prize picks of the week, as well as the injury updates you need to know for Sunday and Monday games, as well as some takeaways from the Raiders-Rams game that will be played tonight. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reaction, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Have a great rest of your Thursday. Good luck if you've got players going in the Raiders-Rams game, and we'll check you out tomorrow to talk some DFS and injuries on our Lineup Friday show.